34-31, a 56-yard walk-off field goal makes the Tigers ACC championship winners. What a crazy game. We're going to get into all of that and more coming up in today's episode. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome back to another Clemson Postgame Live. We got a lot to talk about tonight, but before we get into the show, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. Hit that like button for us. It really helps us out on these live videos. And also, we have the super chat feature available for you guys. If you like what me and Jordan do here on the All In Show and on these Clemson post-game live videos, hit that super chat feature, leave a question, leave a comment, and we'll be sure to read and react to it during this live episode. And with all of that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. Jordan, what's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Yeah, man. I'm speechless, man. I'm also faceless, if you guys noticed. I've been sick basically since yesterday. I look like a hot mess, so I will not be showing my pretty face on camera today. Maybe next All In show. But man, I feel terrible, but I also feel just happy for the players, man. I mean, we can talk about how the game ended up the way it did and how Clemson got into that situation where they had to kick a 56-yard field goal walk-off when you had a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter. But I just want to start by being we're going to be sunshine pumpers for a little bit. Well, maybe that's not the right word, but I just want to give props to the players because at this point I wanted it so bad for them. This doesn't change my opinion about how I feel about certain members of the coaching staff, how I feel about the direction of the program. And I think this game played out in a way where I don't think Dabo would be justified in not making changes regardless of what happens. But I just wanted it so bad for these kids because, you know, it was such a disappointing year in a lot of ways. We felt like this team was better than their record ended up being. And, you know, the roster talent should have been better than 9-3. And the way that you looked in your three losses, it was just hard to stomach. And so to get this opportunity for them to go and add another trophy to Clemson's trophy case, I don't think that can be understated. I think that needs to be celebrated. Shout out to SMU, man. That is a very, very good football team. If they are left out of the college football playoff, I will be outraged. I think they more than proved themselves worthy of a playoff spot tonight. They were the better team for, you know, really a lot of the game, really after the first quarter. And, you know, Clemson was fortunate. Had a couple of guys make some big-time plays, you know, on that final drive. The Adam Randall kickoff return, that's going to stick out forever in my mind. I mean, I can't say enough positive things about him, you know, sticking it out, you know, when his snaps were diminished over the course of the year and he dealt with injuries, and he's dealt with injuries his entire career. You know, he was the third string kickoff returner, and he goes and makes the biggest play that sets up, you know, Clemson's ability to get one play off and get into field goal range. Like, that was unbelievable. And, you know, great throw by Cade, stepping up in the pocket, finding Antonio Williams. Great awareness by Antonio to go down and set up the opportunity. And for once, your field goal unit came through, and Nolan Hooser knocked down a beauty right down the middle. Just very happy for those kids, man. I can't say it enough.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Always exciting to get an ACC championship win. I don't know why your thing's not popping up. This is weird with just me up here.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the issue is.
Yeah, I don't know what it's doing. I have no idea. I don't know. All right. Anyways, moving on with the show. It is what it is. But yeah, just talking about the game. We'll get into some of the negatives here a little bit later in the show, but positives are Clemson goes out, wins another ACC championship game, gets another banner to hang in the stadium, another trophy to hoist. Dabo Swinney's ninth ACC championship win on his 10th appearance. So I think just that's exciting. After last week, you really thought this Clemson Tiger team was dead. They were dead in the water. They had lost to South Carolina, wasted yet another opportunity to possibly get in that large bid into the college football playoffs. They go out there against South Carolina and they give up a 10-point fourth quarter lead to the Gamecocks and ultimately end up losing that game and squandering another opportunity. Luckily for us, a little bit later, last Saturday, Syracuse takes on Miami and ultimately beats Miami, giving Clemson the second seed in the ACC and giving us a shot at the ACC championship game. And then we come in here and we topple SMU and get to hang another ACC banner. So that's really exciting. I want to focus on, how big of an accomplishment that is. This team this season has definitely not gone the way that we would have thought or would have liked for this season to go. But at the end of the day, we are ACC champions, regardless of how we ended up in the game, regardless of how we finished the season. We are ACC champions, and we are going to get a shot at the 12-team playoff. Where we will be playing our first game, whether we get a first-round bye, we'll see. Probably not. Or where we go on the road for that first-round playoff game, we will see. But regardless, it's a huge opportunity for this Tigers team to continue their season. And, we'll see what cards we draw in the first round. We'll see where we have to go and who we have to face. And we'll do a full breakdown and see how we match up. And maybe we can make some noise in this 12-team playoff. So really exciting to see Clemson get the win tonight. And that's great. But before we start getting into the specifics of the game and talking about stuff like that, go ahead and give a quick shout out to the comment section. We've got 74 people in the live chat right now. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hit that like button while you're in here. Hit that super chat feature. We got our first super chat of the night. VR1, 5 seconds. Everyone wanted 5 seconds. Everyone wanted everybody fired. Now, all of a sudden, this is the best roster and coaches of all time. Fan base is just fake fair weather fans. No one deserves it less than Clemson.
I thank you for the $10, V1. We greatly appreciate it. I'm going to have to respectfully disagree. I don't think that anybody's mind was changed about how this season has gone and what deficiencies this coaching staff and this how this program is being run. I don't think that's changed. I mean, you saw a lot of the things that plagued this team over the course of the season play out in this game. You were very fortunate to win this one, and between you were very fortunate to not get called for a penalty. I don't think the entire game. That's really hard to do. And I think that this season, no matter what they do, barring like a national championship type season, I don't think there's anything that could happen to justify some of the underperformance that we've seen from this team. And I didn't want to make this we'll talk about the things we didn't like today, but I just wanted to celebrate this team and getting that accomplishment, because they have not hit on any of their goals so far this year. They didn't win the opener. They didn't. Well, there's no more divisions. They didn't win the closer. They lost 2 games at home. I know that's not the goal, but they certainly don't expect to lose at home. And one out of however many goals that this team sets for itself every year I don't think is good enough for Dabo. And I based on his body language throughout that entire game, especially when Clemson was giving up the lead. He was laying into multiple coaches on that sideline, frustrated, and I don't think that this win justified in his mind, the performance of this team this year. And he basically said it in his post game. He's like, we were very fortunate, in blessing the Lord and all that. Like, he was that was his way of saying we were very fortunate to win this game. And he's grateful for it, but I don't think this changes anything. But that's just me.
There we go. I fixed it.
How did that? Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
I was over here doing some research while you were talking, so thank you for entertaining the fans. And I fixed it. It was in the settings, so shout out to me for figuring that out.
And those of you that are just joining, I'll say it again. I am sick. I've been sick since yesterday, so I do not want to show my face on camera right now. I am a mess. You'll get to see me hopefully on Wednesday, but didn't want to scar you guys for life with the state I'm in right now. I do have clean underwear on, but that's
always good. That's always good.
That's about it, man.
I'm happy you got that far today. So that's good, man. But yeah, V1, just my input on it. I think me and Jordan have been very upfront and honest about this team so far this season. And although we are very happy about winning an ACC championship game, it does not mean the flaws, and the issues with this team magically go away. But at least for the first part of the show, we want to focus on winning an ACC championship game because it's not easy to do. So thank you so much for supporting the channel. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Really do appreciate that. Let me give a quick shout out to the comment section. Thank you guys so much for being here. I will go through and read off a bunch of names, but there's just too many people in here right now. So thank you for all the regulars that are always in here. Thank you for our moderators, Tiggs, John Sarian, for being in here. Really appreciate each and every one of you, Jordan. But let's go ahead and get into the game. And the game truly started off in that first quarter. It could not have gone better than it did for the Tigers in that first quarter, right? An extremely fast start for the Tigers. The defense being very opportunistic. TJ Parker might have had one of his better games as a Clemson Tiger. He gets that strip sack early on the first drive of the game. Oh, and then he recovers the fumble. And the one thing that Clemson did early in this game, in the first quarter in particular, was the offense capitalized on the gifts that the defense gave them. So talk about that first quarter a little bit. Talk about how opportunistic this Clemson defense was and how the offense capitalized on their good fortune.
Yeah, man. Like you said, it couldn't have started any better. I mean, your defense basically created in special teams, created the second touchdown drive. I mean, it was a great, awareness by Kate Klubnik, being on the opposing side of the field. They run a little draw. I don't think it was designed that way, but he noticed a bust in coverage and there was nobody downfield, and he just found Wesco just sitting butt naked for a touchdown. Like, that was a great heads up play. Capitalize on an early turnover from SMU. And then on the second drive, you get, I don't have the drive chart in front of me, but you get another stop, and you get it, Antonio Williams returns it back and has a nice kick return to set you up in opposing field position again. You go down and score again. It just, like, that early 14-0 lead was basically the only thing that, prevented you from losing this football game, and gave you just enough cushion, barely enough cushion, to find a way at the end. But, you saw this team come out fired up. They felt like they had SMU scouted really well. You could tell they were very confident in the game plan. The defensive line was extremely disruptive. And yeah, I mean, that was great complementary football from both sides to create, 2 early Clemson touchdowns. You're muted.
It started out perfectly for the Tigers. You get that fumble, you turn that into second point, you turn that into 7 points. Then you get a quick, 3 and out, turn that into a touchdown as well. And then SMU answers with a touchdown of their own. And then Clemson drives right down and answers again with another touchdown. So first 3 drives of the game, I think, went about as well as it could have gone for the Clemson offense. They punched the ball in 3 drives in a row. All with touchdowns. And then your defense comes up big again with another turnover. TJ Parker forced that one as well, put the quarterback in a very bad position. He ends up throwing it away, not throwing it away out of bounds, unfortunately for him. And Khalil Barnes comes up with that pick over there on the sideline. Unfortunately, that turned into a missed field goal, but the offense still did drive down, get into scoring territory, and just couldn't get it done when it came to the field goal. So overall, that first quarter went really well for the Tigers. Could not have gone better, like I said. But that wasn't the complete story of the game for this offense. Talking about this Clemson offense throughout the game, there were portions of this game, Jordan, where this offense kind of disappeared a little bit, and kind of went away from some of the stuff that was working. What were your kind of observations on, after those first 3 big touchdown drives, kind of the Clemson offense sputtering a bit? What did you think from your perspective, why they started to struggle a bit?
Yeah, I mean, it just – one, you missed on a couple of opportunities. The go ball to Wesco that, Kate on that 3rd down, that was going to be a touchdown. That was a missed. Like, I think people were upset at the fact that Clemson didn't have much of a run game. I in games previous, I would have, understood, the frustration there. But the reality is you were in a situation in this game where, one, you're facing arguably the best run defense you've played this year, and you have a hobbled Phil Maffa, like severely hobbled Phil Maffa, who has none of the burst and none of the power. He's avoiding contact that he had, early in the year. And then, you give Jay Haynes an opportunity, and then you get him hurt on a kickoff return, and now he's out of the game. And so now you're back to throwing in Phil Maffa and, in spots, Keith Adams Jr. And the lack of trust in this staff, if it's CJ's decision, the lack of trust that CJ has in the rest of his backs is very, very clear. Just, after Jay Haynes went down, it was, let's just hope Phil Maffa can break one.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, just talking about the drive chart, and we're going to stick with the first half for now, but, you go touchdown, 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 and then obviously the defense forces that interception. You miss that field goal. It still was a good drive, just ultimately ended in a missed field goal, not the end of the world. And then you go punt, field goal. Let's see, what is it? You go punt, field goal, and then fumble to end the half. And that was the rest of your drive chart, right? So 3 touchdowns in a row, and then missed field goal, punt, made field goal, and then a fumble.
Yeah. And I think my problem wasn't the fact that they were very, scared to run it, because at this point it's obvious why they don't trust their other backs. And I think that's a failing on the staff, the fact that you didn't have other running backs truly ready to go. That's an indictment. on the development. It seems, but I think the problem was that Garrett Riley, I feel like when he was doing things that worked, it felt like definitely after the first quarter, they just had no answers in terms of generating big plays. And I felt like that's, that we both talked about it in the preview. That's what we felt like this team would have to do in order to get drives going, because we were very skeptical about how this run game would fare against them. And we were proven right. And, it's been proven right over the last, 3-4 games. You've had no semblance of a run game outside of Kate Klubnik. And so, you're at the point where they just didn't seem to have – Riley didn't seem to have many answers when he didn't have a run game he could lean on. And that, to be fair, that's tough on any offensive coordinator. But there were things that they were doing to manipulate SMU's defensive backs and coverage. The pick or the rub that they created, I thought that was a good no call.
Yeah.
Like to create your last scoring, your last touchdown drive of the game, like that was a great play call. TJ did a great job selling it. I wasn't upset that they picked up the flag there. Well, obviously I wasn't upset, but
yeah,
from a as neutral standpoint as possible, I felt like that was a good
it was a good flag. Yeah, it was a good pickup of the flag. It was a good no call. He was at least making it appear like he was running a route, and the contact was incidental in him running his route. So overall, good no call there, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just the frustrating thing is when they did decide to run it, it was run plays that we had tried, multiple times over the course of the last few games and weren't hitting. We're trying to, run these tosses and sweeps to Phil Maffa and expecting him to try to beat, to win the edge. He just has not been able to do that for a long time now. And it's the short side of the field where he has less room to work with. Like on that touchdown drive, on your final touchdown drive to Jake Brenningstool, on that second down right before that touchdown, it was a pitch to the boundary that was swallowed up. It had no chance. There were so many wasted plays in this game, and that's the frustrating thing. I'm certainly not happy with the defensive performance today, but I knew that SMU was going to score, and I feel like we both picked a relatively high scoring game. I picked 35-30, and you were I don't remember.
I do not remember what I picked. I will look back.
I know we both had
31-28.
Yeah, so we both felt like this team was going to get into the low 30s potentially, and
I did pick Clemson by 3, and they won by 3. I got the score wrong though.
You nailed it. Well, but you got the margin of victory rate, and you were 3 points off for both teams. So you were. I felt like we had a good read on this game, but not in the way that it ended up being. And
it looked early like Clemson had a possibility to blow this team out, right? It looked very early on in this game, specifically that first quarter, that this game could get out of hand pretty quickly. I think Clemson did a really good job of jumping on this SMU team early. This is a team that typically starts fast in SMU, and I think they got punched in the mouth early, and, they staggered a bit, and they were, looking a little dazed and confused for a while, but slowly they started to mount their own momentum. They started to get back into the game. And the one thing this SMU team has been good at all year is the fourth quarter. And that rung true tonight. And one place that Clemson hasn't been particularly good at so far this year is closing out games, particularly in the fourth quarter. You look back no further than last week against South Carolina, where you give up a 10-point fourth quarter lead. Today, you give up a 17-point fourth quarter lead. That kind of stuff is really unacceptable, and it goes into a lot of the stuff that you were talking about some of the play calling and just some of the odd stuff that we do on offense at times. I thought Garrett Riley, to his credit, came in with a really good game plan against SMU, and it was working really well. But some of the stuff that they choose to do, particularly with Phil Maffa, is sometimes puzzling. It's baffling at times, right? When you start getting them out on the edge on these tall sweeps, they just don't work. And he tends to just get stretched out to the sideline and lose 3, 4, 5 yards on the play. Or at best, he gets back to the line of scrimmage. Rarely do they ever result in any sort of positive yards. So why we continue to do those, I don't know. If you do want to run a tall sweep, if you do want to get some running plays out on the edge, I don't think Phil Maffa, especially right now with the questions of how healthy he is, and I think it's pretty evident that he's not healthy. He's not your guy for that right now. A Jay Haynes is better fit for that, or getting a sweep going with one of your other skill position players, right, would be a more beneficial move if you were trying to do that kind of stuff. But doing it over and over again with Phil Maffa with the same results is just maddening at this point. I was pretty ticked off right before that Brenning Stool touchdown that you mentioned earlier. When they did it again, I'm like, why do we keep doing this stuff? Ultimately, it worked out. It ended up in a Brenning Stool touchdown, his second touchdown of the night. So at least we punched the ball in and we got the job done there. But there was just points and times in this game where the offense could have put, just like the South Carolina game. I feel like I'm making the same analysis that I did against South Carolina. You could have put distance, even more distance between you and SMU, and you just didn't get the job done. You didn't take your opportunities. I felt like early in the game, the offense did a really good job of taking advantage of their opportunities, and as the game went on, they were less and less opportunistic on the offensive side of the ball, and frankly, didn't get the job done when they needed to, outside of that last drive that set up the game-winning field goal.
Yeah, and just the frustrating thing is it was so many 3 and outs. Like that was the biggest problem. It's not even it's definitely the fact that you were struggling to even score points, but
right.
Your drives were lasting like a minute plus at best.
Mm-hmm.
And like in a game where you have this cushion, like you need to be able to sustain at least a few first downs per drive. Like, and you were completely inept outside of the 1 touchdown drive, and of course the game-winning field goal in the second half. And that was so frustrating because I was like, I know SMU's defense has been really good this year, and they have a really good defensive line. I thought their DBs played better than I was expecting them to at times, but like, man, they were not blanketing you the way that it seemed like they were at times, and it just seemed like you didn't have the answers for whatever they were looking. And of course, I'll have to go back and watch the game more and all of that, but
right,
it was clear that this offense was scrambling for any sort of way to move the football, and that's unacceptable. I mean, I know you're dealing with you're shorthanded at running back, but that's not enough of an excuse to not be able to generate first downs for much of the second half. Like that's
no. I mean, and look, you had outside of that touchdown drive, which was your third drive coming out of the half. You go on that 10-play, 5-minute drive, right, and you punch it in for a touchdown, and then to your point, it's 3 and out. And those 2 drives particularly were barely over a minute, right? I think combined they might have been just over 2 minutes for those 2 drives. And then you got a 5 plays and then a punt, and then your game-winning field goal drive, right? So after that touchdown, your offense really did absolutely nothing. Couldn't move the ball, couldn't get first downs, just ceased to be able to operate for whatever reason.
Oh, I'm muted this time. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And that's why it's hard for me to rail on the defense too much in this game, particularly. I still have my opinions haven't changed on the way this defense has been managed as a whole this year. It's been
I
far
got
from.
a question for you on the defense. I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, hit me.
But that last drive, right, where SMU is trying to mount this drive to tie the game up and probably ultimately, in their mind, send it to overtime, right? That didn't end up happening, but they did end up punching it in and tying the game up. Clemson at that point in time in the game had all three of their timeouts. The defense was clearly on its heels, clearly winded, missing tackles, looking out of sorts. Why do you not use some of those timeouts to just kind of – because one of the things that SMU had so much success against this Clemson defense when they did have success today was when they went tempo, right? They'd get a good completion down the field, and then there they go, quick, fast, trying to keep the Clemson defense on their heels. That last drive, I mean, you're looking at the clock. I mean, I don't know why you don't utilize at least one of those timeouts to just kind of give your defense a reset. And I mean, maybe that's just me, but I just didn't understand that while watching the game. I'm like, we got 3 timeouts, and we're hanging this defense out to dry right now because they're going fast, and our defense was clearly on its heels.
No, you're absolutely right. And that final drive, it just felt like, they stayed in more or less the same defense. They just dropped a bunch of guys in coverage, and they did it. I mean, SMU in that, especially in that fourth quarter, did a really good job of, moving the pocket, getting Jennings on the move, just artificially creating time for his receivers to just find soft spots in the zone. And, Rashard Smith, it felt like you never covered him underneath. He was always seemed to be there. But you were fortunate he dropped one of those throws. And like I think like that was the frustrating thing, is that when you're playing an offense, especially an offensive mind like Rhett Lashlee, like you have to be able to change the looks up. And it felt like Clemson stayed in the same, defense, for far too long. Just throughout this entire game, they had a really good plan and on those first couple of SMU drives. And then they set, it's like you give a guy like Rhett Lashlee a third look at that defense, and you're not changing anything about what you're doing. Like he went right down the field like that. That's when they went down the field when you were up 14-0. And so there were just so many instances of that. And then of course the end of the game when it seemed like you didn't make any adjustments to what they were doing. And that was that's another thing that's been a trend throughout the course of this season. And so that's why I'm certainly not happy with how the defense played. And I think the offense definitely didn't, hung them out to dry for a lot of that fourth quarter, especially just not getting not generating any sort of offense or keeping the defense off the field for longer than a minute. Like that's not complimentary football. I know people are tired of hearing that, but that's how you win football games. And they just did not do the things they needed to do. And they were, of course, the way it played out in the end, you were, that was ultimately, you had to have something like that happen because it definitely did not feel like you had any sort of shot of winning that football game in overtime with just how things were trending.
I didn't like Clemson's chances at all heading into overtime. I was pretty dejected, if I'm being honest, towards the end of that game. And the longer the fourth quarter went on, just full transparency, I thought Clemson was going to find a way to lose that game. I 100% did. It just felt like too much of a familiar feeling. Like, you're just sitting there and you're like, of course, this is how Clemson's going to lose this game, right? It just seemed like that's the way the game was going. Luckily for us, after pretty much not coming through at any point in time in the season, the kicking game came through. We got it protected.
Yep.
And our boy Nolan Hoosier nails it. A 56-yard walk-off game winner in the ACC championship game. So shout out to that dude for just having ice cold water running through his veins because that dude's a true freshman. And our kicking game has been awful so far this year.
Yep.
Really no fault to him. Really more of a fault to the protection. But to go out there in that moment with that on the line and not flinch and nail it, credit to him, man. That was awesome. Because if any Clemson fans being honest, we all did not think that kick was going through the uprights. Like,
the scene of that kick getting blocked and SMU returning it as time expired was going through my head.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I feel like if anybody's being honest, a Clemson fan that knows this special teams through and through so far this season, just knew. Like, in my mind, best case scenario was that he just missed it, and it wasn't some catastrophic block, like you say, and return for a touchdown, right? Game winner. But I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think he was gonna hit it. Not that I don't think he's capable of it. Clearly he is, but with our protection, I didn't think the longer the kick, the lower the trajectory and any sort of pressures, particularly up the middle or on that left side, which we've done time and time again this season. You think that thing's getting blocked?
100%. And you needed unlikely heroes to come in and get you that win. Adam Randall.
After doing nothing, probably for the past 4 weeks or so, we haven't seen Adam Randall. And then he comes in due to Jay Haynes being injured, and due to other guys muffing kicks.
It was David
out there muffing kicks, and then you put a veteran dude out there like Adam Randall, and he just takes it 30 yards or whatever it was, sets you up with just a shot, and then Cade makes the plays that he needs to make. Makes the throws, and then we get the timeout, and Nolan Hoosier finishes it off. What a crazy turn of events for that last 30 seconds or whatever it was in the game.
16, actually.
16, there you go. 16 seconds.
Just unbelievable. That's going to live in Clemson lore forever. I just, after last week, just the thought of this team being a playoff team was kind of surreal. And just to get the opportunity, and they were close to wasting it, but they ultimately pulled through. Like, that's, I think this program needed that. Again, it doesn't mean that changes don't need to be made, but I think for the optics and the standing of this program in the national landscape, having a 12-team playoff appearance to sell, I think it's a big deal. This team has not been in a playoff type situation since 2020.
Yeah, no doubt.
The perception of this program declining, a lot of it warranted, is killing you on the recruiting trail, and you couple that with a lot of the NIL shortcomings that you've had over recent years. Like, you're not recruiting as well as you used to, and you're not. There's you've allowed other programs, not just within your own league, but obviously in your own state, to catch up. And at least now you have a selling point, and with the changes that supposedly Clemson is making on the NIL front, and with revenue sharing coming on, there are avenues where this program can get the ship righted, from a perception standpoint. And this would go a long way.
Yeah, 100%. And I see people mentioning Adam Randall maybe transferring, and maybe he does after the season. But shout out to that guy for being there when Clemson needed him tonight.
Yeah,
And
he didn't mail it in when his number was called. He went and made a
he
play.
didn't mail it in, man. And I know he's got to be over on that sideline, not happy with his current role on the team, and I can't blame him for that. But when his number was called tonight and the team needed him, he was ready and he delivered. So shout out to him. And if he does decide to move on after the season, I wish him the best of luck because that dude's the epitome of a team player. He's always there regardless of what his role is. So, yeah, love that guy, man. He's a true Tiger. Shout out to him for that amazing play because that will live in Clemson lore for a long time. Because without that return, we don't have a legitimate shot of even trying to get into some semblance of a field goal situation there and ultimately winning that game. So that was pretty awesome. Just an amazing night for the Tigers. Like I said, another ACC championship game. Dabo moves to 9-1 in these exact games. Just the ninth time that Clemson gets to win this league under the Dabo Swinney era. Pretty special. And we're going to a 12-team playoff, man. And it feels like it's been forever, to your point, since we've been able to go to a playoff. And I think it is a very positive thing for optics for this program. It's huge for Clemson to be able to go to a 12-team playoff. Hopefully we can make a little noise, maybe win a game, maybe win a couple games. Who knows what happens? We'll see how the committee ranks everybody come tomorrow. It's going to be a crazy, much anticipated ranking. There's going to be a lot of fan bases with some hurt feelings, and there's going to be a lot of excited fan bases. So can't wait to watch that tomorrow. But Clemson ultimately gets it done. It wasn't a pretty game, especially down the stretch, particularly in that fourth quarter. Talking about the defense, I see some of the people in the chat section talking about, kind of the prevent defense that West went to and kind of giving up some chunk yardage there. And I felt like just watching the game, not only in that fourth quarter, but, throughout the game, our linebackers got caught with their eyes in the wrong place far too often tonight, where there were wide open receivers. We got bailed out a couple times by drops, which is not something that SMU has done a ton of this season. But they dropped the ball quite a few times tonight. They had quite a few drops tonight that bailed Clemson out in some pretty crucial situations. And, Barrett Carter, Wade Woodaz, those two in particular, they got beat several times tonight. Got caught with their eyes in the wrong place. And I know that's tough, but I'm glad we did just enough to get the job done and win the game tonight.
100%. And I just, like I said, I'm extremely happy for the players because I just, with everything that this season has brought on them, and with the crushing way that you lost last week, it feels good to know that they got an opportunity. And from people I talked to when they found out that they were going to the ACC championship game, it wasn't like it wasn't, oh well, that's cool. It was like, we have a shot,
right?
And especially with how they came out and played at the beginning of this game, you definitely felt like they had a belief that they had a shot. And that's, I'm happy to see them just get that opportunity. But we'll see what where their destination is. I doubt that they get a playoff bye. I don't think they're high enough ranked, and the way that the other conference championships played out today. Yeah, I don't really see a way. Clemson is probably going on the road in a first-round playoff game. But
for sure.
We'll find out their destination and all of that, and we'll see.
Yeah, Boise State handled their business. Um,
Arizona State.
Arizona State, yep, handled their business.
They'll likely be ranked ahead of you
in convincing fashion. So I feel like, probably both of those teams are ranked ahead of you.
Yep.
Come Selection Sunday tomorrow. So you're going to be on the road heading somewhere, which is okay because all Clemson needs at this point is a shot, right? And that's what we have. Went in there, you did just enough. You're ACC champions, and now you sit back and wait for where the committee's going to send you. So I think as Clemson fans, we can be super excited about that. Like I said at the top of the show, this season has been anything but what we would have wanted or pictured for this Clemson Tiger team. But at the end of the day, if you would have told us coming out of fall camp that we were going to be ACC champions and we were going to be heading to the 12-team playoff, I think we would have took that every day of the week. And that's not to say that this team does not have its flaws. That does not say that this team's coaching staff is perfect and that there aren't changes that are going to need to be made and evaluated come off season. But right now, we're in the midst of a playoff run, and as a fan, I'm gonna hope for the best, man. I'm gonna hope that Clemson can keep doing just enough to move on to the next round, and just enough to move on to the next round, so on and so forth until this playoff run's over. So I'm excited about it. Can't wait to see the Tigers back into the playoffs. It's going to be a unique situation, right? First round playoff games are on college campuses, so that's really cool. I can't wait for it, man. I'm gonna enjoy the ride.
100%. With that being said, I think I'm gonna get on out of here a little bit early. I'm hanging on by a thread. If you want to, you can keep going or whatever you decide to do. But thank you guys so much, seriously, for tuning in tonight. We got 124 people in here. If y'all haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe. My face is normally on camera if you're new, but I've been sick since yesterday. Didn't want to show you all of that. So hopefully you'll see me bright and smiling on Wednesday night. Of course, we go live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. the All In Show, Eastern Standard Time. So y'all make sure to check us out and share it with other Clemson fans, other college football fans. We welcome everybody. So, and we'll definitely have more to talk about, and we'll know Clemson's destination as far as the playoff is concerned. So we'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have a ton to talk about. So it'll be a lot of fun, man. Hey, you get out of here. You have a good night. Hopefully you feel better. I'm going to hang out and take a couple questions for maybe 5 or so minutes. And then I'm going to get out of here as well. It's already 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a long, long day tomorrow. And can't wait to see the rankings. Maybe we'll pop on and say a few words for the rankings if you're feeling up to it tomorrow. But
yeah,
get some sleep, buddy. And we'll see you either tomorrow or on Wednesday for sure.
All right, brother.
All right, later, man.
Take care.
All right, guys. Send some prayers up for my buddy Jabo Jordan. Hopefully he gets feeling a little better. Like I said, maybe we'll pop on and say a few words tomorrow for the ranking show and see where Clemson lands, see where the rest of the college football field lands. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fun debate and, angry people out there come Selection Sunday. But it'll be a lot of fun to watch regardless. I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to get into the comments section, ask some questions, whatever you guys want to do. And then we'll hop up out of here. Like I said, it's already after 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm tired. I've been up all day. So let's see what we got here. The real MVP says Clemson could get a bye because beating the number 8 team in the country is better than beating the number 6 team in the 16 team team in the country. Like I said, that's a possibility. The real MVP. I don't know. I don't know how this committee is going to view this win, but certainly on paper, yeah, beating the number 8 team is better than beating the number 16 team. Do they take margin of victory into account? What are they going to evaluate when it comes to that point? So I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility that Clemson ends up with a bye, but I think there's a better chance that they don't than they do. So I'd love to see Clemson, get a bye, obviously, and be one of those four highest ranked conference champions. But if not, all I do know is Clemson will get a shot at the playoffs. And honestly, at this point, that's all that really matters, is that Clemson has earned themselves a shot by winning the ACC championship game. So El Breezy says, we almost blew a 21-point lead. I don't know what will Hakeem, but we need to get it together. Yeah, look, man. 17-point lead in the fourth quarter evaporated quick, fast, and in a hurry for this Clemson Tiger team. Again, that has been something that has popped up several times this season. If you've watched the Clemson Tigers throughout the year, we haven't finished particularly well in a lot of cases. This game, South Carolina game, there's other games out there where we allowed teams to score a bunch of points. A lot of that was in garbage time, but still, finishing games has not been the strong suit here. But again, Clemson does just enough to get it done tonight. 34-31 was the score. All right, let's look at some of these stats while you guys are getting into the comment section. Just comparing Clemson and SMU. 326 yards for the Tigers, 458 yards for the Mustangs, 260 yards passing for the Tigers, 304 for SMU. Rushing, Clemson only mustered up 64 rushing yards. SMU outrushed them by a pretty large margin. They had 154 yards rushing. Time of possession, Clemson 32 minutes to SMU's 27. I think Clemson only had, let me look this up real quick. We only ended the game with 64 rushing yards, but I think we only had we only had 54 rushing yards at half. So we ended up rushing for another 10 yards in the second half. Shout out to Clemson. That daunting rushing game coming through in the second half. A lot of people in here saying Bama out. Yeah, so you guys think SMU should get in over Bama? I guess that's my question to the comment section. I think SMU should be in regardless. I don't know how you would drop an SMU team that you had ranked 8 coming into conference championship weekend. They lose on literally a last-second field goal to Clemson in their conference championship game. I don't know how you then drop them from 8 to out of the playoffs. That's just my opinion. I don't see a coherent argument where you could do that. So I definitely think that SMU should and will be in the playoffs. If they're not, I would love to hear the explanation behind why losing on a last-second field goal in your conference championship suddenly drops you from 8th into out of the playoffs, out of the top 12. That would be a really interesting mental and verbal gymnastics for the committee to go through to explain that one away. But we'll see. I know the ACC, like you guys are mentioning in the comment section, not a highly respected league. So there's always that. Jay says Dabo gets to brag about 10 wins again. Absolutely. Yes. And you know he will. You know he will, Jay. We got SMU in here, says, good game, man. I love Clemson, but it's a city thing. Pony up. Hey, shout out to you guys. I wouldn't hang your head too low because, like I said, I think you'll get a shot at the playoffs as well. And that's all you need is a shot. So don't think SMU season is over by any means. Still seems, as if there is some sort of disconnect with the coaching staff, as if each coach is operating independently. Look, there's certainly been over the past couple of weeks some puzzling decisions. You go back to last week and Sammy Brown suddenly disappearing, particularly in that fourth quarter where I think he only had 4 snaps against South Carolina. We ultimately lose that game because of South Carolina's quarterback running all over us. And we benched our leading tackler in the fourth quarter, who still finished the game as the leading tackler while not playing the entire fourth quarter. So, and then to hear Dabo's comments trying to explain it afterwards didn't make a whole lot of sense. So I see your point. I see your point. I'll give time for a couple more comments, guys, and then we'll get out of here. Tigers Tom says, I wouldn't bet on the committee dropping Bama. There doesn't have to be a good argument. Bama is SEC. They have SEC privilege. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong. I've said it on the show before that they're always going to give more. They're always going to lend more credence to an SEC team and a Big Ten team before they do any other conference or any other team. So that's how it's probably always going to be as long as we're in the structure that we're currently in. But we'll see. Let's see what else we got. Mike Williams says, what kind of seeding do you think Clemson will be looking at in the playoffs? What team do you think we might draw? Honestly, I don't know. I don't have a great answer for that. All I can say as far as where Clemson's going to be seated is they were already behind Boise State when the rankings came out last week. Did Clemson do enough to jump them? I'm not sure about that. They won their game in very convincing fashion, and Clemson won all on a last-second walk-off field goal, albeit against the number 8 seed. I don't know how they view that, right? So I think there's a potential that I think it could go either way. I could see the committee putting Clemson up there and them being one of the top 4 ranked conference champions. But again, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to shake out. Like I said, Arizona State won in convincing fashion as well, and they were also in front of Clemson in the rankings. So both of those teams were already ranked ahead of Clemson coming into this weekend. Did Clemson do enough to jump either one of those? If not, then we'll be on the road going somewhere. Sherelle Moore back in here. Thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate you. For sure, brother. It was an awesome game. SMU didn't do enough to win. The better team won tonight. Texas got screwed. Yeah, that was a crazy game between them and Georgia. My main focus, funny enough, at the end of that game was just like, let's not end up being another 8 overtime game with Georgia because I really want to watch this Clemson game. So could somebody please win this game? That's how I felt towards the end of the game. I wasn't rooting for overtime, but yeah, certainly. Shout out to y'all. Good game by SMU tonight. Let's see. Do you think Clemson should hire Maurice Drayton from the Citadel to be special teams coordinator? Hey, if he would take the job, I would welcome it because our special teams are awful. They are bad. Michael Foster says Greg Sankey has already called the committee while James Phillips doesn't know which QB plays for his teams. Man, I can't believe he got on camera and said that. Look, the ACC is so embarrassing sometimes, man. The fact that we got to try to trot out here and defend this conference when the leader of the conference is trotting out there on national television being interviewed talking about Jordan Travis playing for Miami. I don't understand it, man. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's just laughable, man. Why is Jim Phillips still the commissioner of the ACC? Can we not get a serious commissioner that could actually lead this conference into some semblance of competing with the Big Ten and the SEC? Probably not. That's probably too much to ask for. But what I do know is that guy's not the guy that's going to do it. So would love to see him replaced. If anybody needs to get fired, it's him this offseason. Hustler Inc. says Clemson has the number 11 seed and will play Tennessee likely. Tough game. That would be a tough game, man. Heading to Neyland Stadium, that place is rocking. That is a tough atmosphere. A playoff game would probably be absolutely insane. So yeah, that would be a tough draw for the Tigers. I'm not going to lie. I honestly believe we should hire Maurice Drayton. He's a great special teams coordinator, and he would fit Dabo's mentality. Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. Like I said, if he's willing to come, I got no problem with it. No problem with it. Hustler Inc. says Clemson is better off staying in the ACC. Yeah. Judging by some of the stuff that's happened, yeah. I don't know if that's possible at this point. The ball, I don't know if you come back from the lawsuits and all that stuff that's happened. So, Tiger Tom says with Randall's run and Hoosiers' longest field goal, I think this win is the luckiest since NC State field goal kicker missed in 2016. You might be right. It's certainly the most unlikely avenue of winning. If you would have, to your point, Tiger Tom, if you would have polled 100 Clemson fans or 1,000 Clemson fans, and you would have been like, hey, Clemson's going to win this game. How do they do it? Right? No one would have had either of those people, either of those players in the key components as to how Clemson ultimately got the win. But those two guys were extremely, extremely instrumental in the way that Clemson and why Clemson won tonight. Adam Randall's kickoff return that ultimately put Clemson in enough positive field position to at least have a shot to get into field goal range. Offense takes care of that. Nolan Hoosier knocks it through the upright. So, certainly the most unlikeliest of events occurred and ultimately resulted in Clemson winning the game. So, just shows you how crazy football is, man, and how quickly things can change. Because I did not feel great about Clemson's chances headed into overtime. I just felt like SMU's offense was feeling it. The quarterback was improvising. He was all over the place. Clemson's defense was getting gassed. They were starting to miss those tackles, those open field tackles that they tend to do when they specifically when they get tired. So, but nonetheless, the Tigers get it done. They are ACC champions for the 9th time under Dabo Swinney. 2024 ACC champions, heading on to the 12-team playoff. Where they end up in the 12-team playoff, probably somewhere around 11 or 12. Doubt we get the first round bye, but maybe there's a long shot that we do end up as one of the one of the 4 highest ranked conference champions. We'll see. Come tomorrow, Selection Sunday. It'll be awesome. Might pop on here for a little bit and kind of give you guys our reaction to Selection Sunday, or do a watch along with Selection Sunday. We'll see. I'll talk to Jordan about it. I'll see how he's feeling. You guys stay tuned. Like I said, thank you for another post-game live video. We do an all-in show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. every single week, not just during the year, but through the off season as well. So I hope you guys, if you're new to the channel, you don't have to be a Clemson fan. Come hang out with us for the long haul. We do these shows year round. Wednesday, 8 p.m., all-in show. Be there. We'll definitely have that. We'll probably have something coming up tomorrow. Just look for the community tab. We'll make an announcement. So we got 92 people in the live chat right now. Thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate each and every one of you. Hit that like button on your way out. It really helps the video, or it really helps the channel, and support what we do here. Thank you for the super chat we got tonight from V1. Appreciate the $10 super chat. Thank you so much for that, and supporting the channel. Yeah, guys. And with that said, shout out to Nolan Hoosier, 56-yard career-long game-winning field goal for our buddy Nolan. Adam Randall setting it up with an amazing kick return, and the Tigers do just enough to get it done against the SMU Mustangs tonight in Charlotte, North Carolina, ACC championship game. Clemson 34, SMU 31. Y'all have a good one. I'll see you Wednesday, or hopefully tomorrow, but definitely Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for showing up, and we'll see you in the next video. Until then, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. Go Tigers.